Welcome to the Egypt Hour on the Discovery Channel. Today's topic, Egypt's social organization. Egyptian social organization can be organized into a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid is the pharaoh. The pharaoh is the king or ruler. The pharaoh is held responsible for poor crops, disease, profitable trade, and preventing wars. Egyptians believed that the pharaoh wasn't just a king, but a god on earth. The first believed pharaoh of Egypt was Menes. He established the first dynasty. In the time span of ancient Egypt, there were some 31 family dynasties. The pharaoh of Egypt was the most important person in Egypt. Now to Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm going to tell you about the government officials and priests. Government officials ran the kingdom and looked out for the need of the people. The top government official was called the advisor, like here. The advisor gave the advice to the pharaoh and acted as the chief judge. Other top officials were chief of treasurer and general of the armies. The Egyptian people considered the pharaoh as a god on earth. To carry out rituals at the temple throughout the kingdom, the pharaoh appointed the priests. These priests performed healing and led ceremonies and provided advice to the Egyptian people. The priests gave their jobs done to their children, and priests had to shave their heads to show cleanliness to the people.
Thank you, Emily. The third and fourth level of the Egyptian social pyramid are soldiers and scribes. Soldiers and scribes were very important in ancient Egypt. Soldiers fought on foot using spears, shields, and axes. Others rode behind horses and chariots. When times were peaceful, soldiers continued to work for the government and built temples. For young Egyptians, being a soldier helped them gain status. Successful soldiers were rewarded with gifts like land and servants. When Egyptian officials needed to write something, scribes or government reporters wrote it down. Scribes reported court cases, calculated taxes, and wrote letters between government officials. Scribes wrote in a system of picture symbols called hieroglyphics. Only boys were allowed to be scribes, and only scribes could read or write. Now to Jacob.
Thank you, Michaela. Now we're going to be going on to merchants. Merchants were the traders of Egypt. Basically, they did everything trade, carried out all the trades, and the pharaohs wanted. Carrying gold, cloth, and other Egyptian goods for trade. And now we're on to craftsmen. Craftsmen are the builders of Egypt. They make all the jars, statues, robes, necklaces, and they can also be called artisans. They built some of their trade items, and all things decorative were made by craftsmen. Now on to you, Trinity.
Thank you. The last two levels of the Egyptian social pyramid are farmers and slaves. Some farmers own their own land, but most were peasants who worked for pharaohs or wealthy officials. Most of the stuff they grew went back to the landowner. Farmers lived in simple houses made of mud bricks, and they used irrigation systems and camels to carry water to their crops. Large proportion of the crops produced went back to the government officials for taxes, rent, or tribute to the local temple. As part of their duty to the pharaoh, farmers were required to leave their homes and work as members of temporary crews that made stones, built ramps, or made tools. Some enslaved people were peasants who sold their own freedom to pay off their debts. Enslaved people were considered the property of their owners and could be traded.